One of the best things that you can do is to build your capital raising brand. Now, what does that mean? In this video, I'm going to be talking about what are the key areas that you can focus on to communicate your offering to a potential investor in the shortest amount of time possible. When you're going to raise capital, you're going to be communicating your opportunity to potential investors, and they're going to be trying to, as quickly as possible, assess how interested or not they are. Now, what you've got to realize is that the investor you're dealing with is probably borderline ADHD, so you've got to be quick. Now, also, you've got to understand that you're probably competing with 30 to 50 other founders that are also trying to compete for this investor's attention. So, what are the key areas that you can focus on to actually get their interest? First one, you've got to think about how you can position your board and management. If your board and management has been there, done that experience, that's of interest to an investor. Why? Because they know that they've got the capacity to execute, right? So often utilizing your board and management is one of the fastest ways to get interest of an investor, because they'll be thinking, well, if that person's involved, there must be something interesting with that company. So that's the first one. Second one, your own team, right? If the skill set of your own team really demonstrates to an investor what the potential of that business is, because effectively, in able to attracting talent to a company, it really can show an underlying potential for the business. Next one, investors. Who are your existing investors in your company? If you've already got VCs in your business, if you've got high profile, high net worths in your business, if you've already got an investment group, you need to communicate that to other potential investors, because what that effectively says is it says this other investor has done due diligence on our company and they've put money into it. One of the big turning points for me as a business was when I had Investec become a shareholder. Now, I went through a 12-month process of courting, discovery, due diligence, etc., before they become a shareholder. Now, the Investec brand, because they are a listed investment bank, it carries a lot of weight. So any other investors coming through will understand, number one, that there's been a significant amount of due diligence done on my company, and two, that there's a certain level of governance that will be required by that investor as well. Now, what's interesting about that is just the brand communicates that to a potential investor. So if you have investors involved in your business that are either relevant to your area from a profile perspective, or they're a VC or a professional investment group, you should make sure that that is covered as part of your communication to potential investors. Because this whole job is about how do you go from unknown to known in a very quick period of time. And that is another way of doing it. Next one, awards. If there's any industry awards you've won, make sure it's covered in one of your bullet points. In fact, the way I like to think about it is if you can have 7 key bullet points for your business, and in those 7 key bullet points, you're trying to build the brand of your capital raising, and you want to focus on one specific area for each of those bullet points, this is the way you need to think about it. Awards are one part of doing that because it's the industry actually recognizing some of your achievements. Next one, grants. Right now, listed companies do this really well, where they communicate to their investors the different grants that they've been able to receive. You should also be looking to do the same. If you've been the recipient of any specific industry grants or any R&D grants, make sure you communicate that to potential investors. Next one, sector. Right? There's a great saying that a rising tide lifts all boats. Right? So if you're in a sector that's of high interest to potential investors, that is also able to capture their attention in a second, right? Because once again, we're about going from unknown to known. And if you're thinking about how you build your case to an investor and you're just ticking these boxes, all of a sudden the investor is subconsciously thinking, this is of interest to me, right? And that's the reason why I said it's about capital raising brand. Brand is about capturing the subconscious attention whilst at the same time capturing the conscious mind. Now, the last one is metrics, right? So especially with B2C businesses, typically metrics are a really sort of good defining point about why an investor should be interested. So That's sort of the 7 key areas that we talk to companies about how to build their capital raising brand. So let's go through them again. 7 key areas in building your capital raising brand. Firstly, board and management. Secondly, your team. Third, any renowned investors that are of interest to communicate. 4, awards. 5, any grants that you receive. 6, the specific sector that you're in. And then 7, any metrics that are of relevance or growth metrics that are of relevance to an investor. They're the 7 key ways that you can utilize to build your capital raising brand to an investor. More importantly, if you can condense those into 7 bullet points, from an investor's perspective, they will subconsciously be interested in your opportunity because you're identifying with what they are looking for. Hope that was of use. Look forward to providing more videos shortly.